Hello, everyone, and welcome to this future of well-being, high performance, and mindful recovery. I'm Kevin Allen, the Chief Community Officer at OpenEXO, and this is, in fact, the fifth in our Future of series. And you can see the recordings of the previous Future of series that you can see here on the left at the link at the top of the screen there. And we also have some upcoming Future of events, as you can see over here. Next week, we have the Future of Corporate Social Responsibility. And then 2 weeks after that, we have the Future of Health. And so if you just head over to link.exos.2/future, you'll be able to see those. So today, as I said, we will be discussing the future of well-being, high performance, and mindful recovery with Dea Frankó Csuba, who is in Hungary. And Dea is an EXO ambassador, an innovation coach, serial entrepreneur. She's built 2 successful education startups in the past 10 years and is a regular speaker at events about future, digitization, as well as innovation. And she's really passionate about continuously exploring fast-moving business areas, preparing organizations for that exponential mindset, building projects that have a positive business as well as social impact, supporting purpose-driven businesses, as well as engaging wider communities to prepare them for the future of work. So, Dea, I'd like to welcome you up on stage. How are you doing today?
Hi, Kevin. Thanks a lot. I'm really glad to be here. I'm doing really well. It's a major heat wave here in Europe, in Hungary as well today, so we have a hot day.
Well, I hope you're keeping cool indoors and that your mind can work and it's not overheating. And so I'm going to hand over to you to do some presentation that's going to be interdispersed with Q&A, as well as some discussion amongst ourselves. So for those of you who are watching, no matter what platform you're on, you can ask questions. So in the chat, either on LinkedIn, Facebook, or on YouTube, you can just ask some questions as we go along. And let's keep this as interactive as possible. So please do ask those questions or make comments, and we'll be reading those as we go through. So I'll bring up your slides there, and over to you.
Thanks. Thank you, Kevin. And indeed, I've designed this session to be somewhat interactive, so bear with us. Otherwise, I'll have to just nudge Kevin to ideate with me about the future of well-being and high performance and active recovery. I think it's a super, super exciting and also very important subject. I'm totally passionate about this topic of self-exploration, partly because I'm, like many of us, work in a very intense environment. So I believe that it really has to be part of our daily life to kind of reflect on how we can, stay on top of the game. But also I have some other reasons as well. I've started practicing meditation and all sorts of breathing practices when I was a child, reading a book about some superpowers that you can gain if you do those practices. So I've been involved with this topic of self-discovery for decades. And, the more we kind of shift towards using radical technologies and new sciences to understand more about the human mind and the human body and how we can become, the best versions of ourselves, the more excited I get about, blending these ancient techniques that are not so scalable, take a lot of time, grit, patience, and systematic approach to kind of improve ourselves, and then technology and new sciences to accelerate this process. So what I thought for today is to go through a little bit of this whole problem space of well-being, active recovery, and high performance. Why is it so important? How we are getting more and more into this topic. And then after speaking a little bit about the problem space, just look out into the future. And when I say future, I mean at least 10 years from now. And as you know, we have no idea what the future is going to be like 10 years from now, but we can actually look at some signals that are happening already today that give us a clue of what potential scenarios are going to happen there. So what I did, I brought a series of trends and signals that I want to share with you. And then we can, create those future scenarios together. I have a few that I can share with you so that I kindle your kind of thinking and curiosity about the topic. But I would also like to engage you. That's why I said, if you're not engaging, then I must get Kevin into the game and just do the work with him. So Kevin, be prepared. And then let's jump into it. So why is this topic so important? I mean, I don't have to explain too much for those people who are members of the OpenEXO tribe and part of the EXO movement. We are living in an exponential world where technology is accelerating around us in a tremendous pace, but we are living in a biological construct. Our body, our nervous system, our brain is just the same. We are, in a way, linear human beings, right? And so far, we don't have any technologies to put that on an exponential scale. We process information in a linear fashion. We process our emotions in a linear fashion. We need to rest. We need to eat. We need to do certain things to be able to perform. And then, sometimes living in this exponential world, we do feel overwhelmed. Sometimes, or even often, we can feel overwhelmed. If I just think about my best reads list and the books list that I want to read in the coming weeks, that already gives me a stress. Or if I just look at my WhatsApp, my Slack, all my channels that I use to keep in touch with my family, friends, and the work environment I work with, that is already overwhelming. And that's just a tiny, tiny piece of life that we live today. So definitely here we have a problem that is a huge one for all of us. And as Peter Diamandis says, it's also a huge business opportunity. So we can see like a lot of companies coming into this space and trying to do something about it. So how did this whole thing happen around us? What did accelerate it? What I see in most of the companies that, since we are moving to home offices and we have all our devices from our smartwatches to our phones to every single smart device that we have, they are throwing all the work information on us all the time. The boundaries completely melted between work and life. Ideally, work is part of like a positive part of our life. If you have an MTP, if you're passionate about what you are doing, then it's a nice kind of thing that work is part of your life. But on the other hand, sometimes we just need to disconnect and we just need to find consciously some space where we can rest, we can recharge. And it's really hard to do this when you have all these kind of triggers around you that push you back to thinking about the problems that you are solving in your work. I mean, work is also getting relative, depending on how passionate you are about what you're doing. And the other thing is the side effect of COVID. And that's also a very interesting thing that I see in many companies all over the world, small ones and big ones, is that last March, when lockdown started around the world and everybody was sent home from the workplace to work from their home office, there was a huge kind of sprint to manage the crisis, to be on top of the game, to digitize all the processes that were not digitized yet, to really transform ourselves. And digital transformation indeed was really accelerating to be able to stay in business. But then what happened is we did manage the crisis successfully. All these companies are now working fully digital. If they are good enough, then they are still in business. But somehow we connect home office to this kind of sprint crisis management, putting out fire, and this speed, this pace, those expectations, and those habits that we developed last March and the month afterwards, they stayed in the workplace. They never changed. So people are having meetings 8 o'clock at night on Fridays, sometimes Sundays, even over the weekends. And companies take it like a new norm that, they have all these kind of not so sustainable and unhealthy habits. And what we are seeing now is that it starts to take a toll on us, on teams, and on us as individuals as well. And so, there is more and more kind of discussion about how we can handle that. And I think, one way to frame this whole situation we are in is like this. We need to think of ourselves as pro athletes, basically, all of us. No matter if you're an entrepreneur, a startupper, an employee, a student, we are in the exponential world constantly giving performance that is almost like a performance of the pro athlete. The only difference is that we are just giving this performance all the time, and we're not really thinking about, how to optimize this. while a pro athlete has a whole team around him or around her to build up this performance, to really consciously scale the training so that the athlete is in the best shape for the important match, to really monitor what you eat, what you do, what you drink, when you sleep, how you wind off after the big matches, and how you physically and mentally make sure that you can get back into the game the next day mentally fresh, emotionally strong, and also physically rested. And seriously, think about it. This is essential in sports to be able to perform on the long run, to not be injured, to be able to stay in the game. And I believe that we should have the same kind of mindset and the same kind of team around us helping us in the daily work, because what we are doing in business, what the kids are doing in school, is very, very similar to what pro athletes are doing on the fields. Like, we're watching a Euro Football Cup right now, so we see a lot of that, like how professional, these people are handled. Now, I don't know what happened to my slides, so just give me one moment. There you go. So what does this all mean? What is well-being at all? If we go back to the roots and see and look at this whole concept of well-being, the interesting thing is that there is no definition of well-being. There are different kind of approaches or context in which we put these words well-being. For some, it only means mental health. For some, it means other things as well. So I kind of decided to bring my definition so that I kind of explain what is the context I am coming from. And I think it's a sort of mix of different things, like definitely physical health. Like, as I said, food, sleep, sports. There are so many researches about how these three factors only and your physical health influence high performance. For example, Harvard Medical School published a research a few years ago where they were researching the impact of the lack of sleep deprivation on the brain. And what they found is that if you're not getting a proper 7-8 hour good quality sleep every night, the effect on your brain is going to be exactly the same as if you were drinking alcohol every night. So actually, many of us start working in the morning drunk, and we are not even aware of it. We do actually have the same sort of symptoms. You cannot focus like that. So how about mental health? Like, how ready we are to receive feedback, for example, that can be crucial for us to be able to spot a pattern that can be risky for our business or for our position, how ready we are to see change and participate in change. It all depends on our well-being, how stable, how grounded we are in our emotional world, and how focused we are in a mental sense. And of course, there is economic health. Like, do we have enough means so that we don't have to worry about the future in the kind of financial sense? That's very important. And then, of course, we have these higher things like purpose, meaning in life. And we have in the OpenEXO economy the basic concept of all exponential organizations, which is the MTP. Well, we have to have the MTP also as individuals. What's even more, I have two MTPs. I have one MTP for my professional kind of focus, and I have one MTP for myself as a human being. And these MTPs are the drives that really kind of help me to jump out of bed every morning and really enthusiastically start working. So that's also an important part of well-being in my kind of understanding. I wouldn't say my definition, but my kind of way of looking at it. And then there are the social relationships. So do not underestimate this part. Social relationships really determine how ready we are again to face the future. Do we have experts, people around us, professionals, who we can talk to when we have a question? And here I would like to mention the power of the OpenEXO community. Like, if you're part of this community, you know that you always have someone you can talk to if you have a question, maybe about a business model or a new technology or a disruptive trend or whichever problem you face in your professional life. But equally important it is to have people around you who can support you emotionally in your personal life. So do you have friends to engage with, to have some fun, to disconnect, to speak to someone when you're not feeling well, and so on. So for me, like, the well-being space is somehow this space. And if I just want to put it in one short sentence, well-being for me means how satisfied are you in your life? Now, that's also a tricky one, because high performance really depends on how satisfied you are, but what's very important is that you have to have a good challenge skills balance to have the right kind of satisfaction. Because if you don't have enough challenge in your life, then you're not going to pursue your MTP or your mission in the same kind of enthusiastic way. But if you have too much challenge, it's just overriding your skill set, then you are always stressed, then you are constantly in anxiety and you cannot perform. So how satisfied are you in your life, in my sense, also means like, do you have this challenge skills balance that will bring the best version of yourself into play? So again, let me repeat this. We really have to think about the future of high performance and active recovery like football players think, or Olympic athletes think, and really so consciously build up our strategy, our team around us, our kind of approach to be on top of the game, and then to wind down whenever we need to kind of actively or passively recharge and rejuvenate ourselves. And, you know, the effect of this is not less than 70% increase in performance. If you read and hear the books of and the podcasts of Stephen Kotler, for example, and the Flow Research Collective, they did a lot of research about it, how flow and the conscious kind of focus on building a peak performance body can increase your performance by 70%. So just imagine, what would you do if you were 70% more efficient? If you like to work 10 hours a day, that means you could do 70% more in a day, which is huge. But if you want to have a little bit more free time, then maybe in 2-3 hours you can finish work and then you can go to the beach, like windsurfing. Today we have a really good wind in Hungary and a nice hot day. So, you know, so think about it, like it's really worth giving it a try. So, you know, well-being drives a lot of stuff that we need in building exponential organizations, like high performance we spoke about, but also disruptive and transformative thinking, which is fundamental. If you're not well, it's not going to work. Disrupt complex problem solving. Like when we are building an EXO, usually that EXO focuses on solving a big problem. So how do you do that? And usually these problems are complex. Usually the solution is just not obvious. So how do you do that when you are not there? You cannot, you know, move your energies to the right direction. And then, you know, there are all sorts of other things like efficiency, creativity. And in the professional context, we usually don't speak so much about happiness and sustainable health. But I think, you know, these are so important. Like every time I work with a client, my first question is, you know, are you enjoying what you're doing? Like you spend 10, 12 hours a day working. So not enjoying it is just wasting your life. So, you know, then stop doing it and figure out something else. I mean, of course, not everybody can do that. But seriously, can you find the joy in what you are doing? Like, can you wake up in the morning going to work knowing that you will think about something exciting or try to solve something exciting that day? I think that's very, very important. And of course, if we are not well, that drives exactly the opposite. So then we're not disruptive, then we are not coming up with original ideas, then we're not excited going to work. And that kind of drives low performance. And just to show you a few numbers about how this negative effect can also be, like on the positive side, you can increase by 70% on the performance. But on the negative side, apparently, according to some recent research, 50% of work absence, the reason behind 50% of work absence is burnout. And apparently, because of COVID, burnout cases increased 3 times in the last year, which is huge. Like, think about an organization with a few tens of thousands of people. So how many people are impacted? And 65% of employees claim that they have to work longer hours. Like I mentioned this, that we are sprinting on a marathon length. We just forgot to switch off the crisis mode, and we are still in crisis mode since last 1 year. And according to the same research, 2/3 of the employees feel that it all has negative effect on the mental health. So we are clearly facing a problem here, and we need to do something about it. And the cool thing is that there are so many things we can do about it. Like we have all these cool new sciences, like neuroscience in these modern terms that we use it nowadays, or behavior science. We have bionics, we have material science, we have data science, nanotechnology, digital modeling, genome sequencing, AI, all this cool stuff that can help us, first of all, to understand who we are and how we function, and also to augment ourselves with different technologies and superpowers. Remember, I studied meditation when I was a child to gain some superpowers. Actually, there was one superpower I really wanted to have. I read in a yoga book that if you do certain breathing practices, then you will be able to read other people's minds. So that's what got me excited. And now you have all these technologies, and I will show you even reading other people's minds is possible. They will recognize that you are doing it. So it's not like in yoga that they don't realize. They will realize that you are doing it, but you can have all this cool stuff. So let's deep dive into it. Like, what's the future of this whole space, and what kind of signals and trends do we see that can kind of suggest future scenarios where burnout and low performance and all these issues are not a problem anymore. So I collected a few of these trends, and just to repeat, we are going to speak now in 10 years term. The signals that I'm showing you are pieces of the future that are existing already today. And then we will think together about what sort of future scenarios can we design together. So let's see. The first trend that I was kind of exploring is exactly this that I just spoke about, this kind of anti-burnout mission that we have. And the first very interesting signal that I found was that Google is using resilience training videos to tackle mental health challenges amongst their employees. These video clips are called Meet the Moment videos, and these are like 5-6 minute videos helping employees to learn about different topics on how to improve their sleep, breath, parenting, avoiding anxiety, like all the topics that are coming up recently. And what I found really, really fascinating is that Google executives claim that this is the greatest challenge with their employee base today. Mental well-being is such a huge thing now in the HR world of Google. Signal number one, remember that. Signal number two, 9% of Britons say they are ready to go back to the old normal, and 91% of Britons say, no, we want a new normal. Now we've broken some habits that were not really helping us, that were not really good for us. So let's design a new reality that is better to live in, and leave this kind of old style of working and living behind, which I think is also super, super interesting. So what is this new reality going to be like? The next signal I brought you is that scientists propose a new way of detecting emotions using wireless signals. So this is about a technology where they use radio waves to measure certain body vitals like heart rate and breathing, and so predict the feelings of a person. Originally, the use case for which they were designing or developing this solution was for strikes, for protests, to be able to predict if people will start fighting in the crowd, which is, one possible use case. But think about it, how this technology could be used for us individuals to have some sort of solution that can give us very instant feedback when our emotions are going out of control, or when we are not in a collaborative mood in the workplace and we should just sit in the corner and just do some work on our own, all sorts of cool stuff. So I think it's also very, very interesting. And this one, just going back to the pro athletes analogy, the future of sports is biometric technology and bionics, boosting performance and reducing injury. So this solution that you see here is designed by Puma and its partners. And what it can do is monitor the body performance of the sports person and predict whether the person is prone to injury. So before the injury, you can stop, your athlete before he or she gets into trouble. So I was thinking, if we have such a cool technology, how could we translate it again to our kind of pro sports, which is building EXOs or working in any industry around the world? so that we can get some kind of alerts when we are putting too much pressure on our health, or when we are losing focus, when we are about to injure ourselves, either in a mental or a physical sense. I think it's a very, very interesting one. So these were the kind of signals that I thought I would share with you from this world of anti-burnout mission. So there's a very clear focus from organizations on supporting employees on the mental health challenge, especially that 2/3 of the employees are saying they are facing some of these challenges. We can use radio waves to track and predict emotional problems. We can use bionics and biometric technologies to measure our body vitals and have instant feedback before we injure ourselves. And very clearly, we are not willing to go back to where we came from thanks to COVID. I mean, I know there are so many negative effects to it, but maybe this can be a positive one. So what sort of future scenarios can we create like that? And I'll pause here for a moment and see if there are any comments so far, or any questions so far in the chat.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Dea. And so this is now your opportunity in the chat on whatever platform you're on to share some of what you think those future scenarios could look like, or ask any questions. We do have a few comments and questions. The one thing from Lars, he was just asking, like, who is the best role models? And this is really around sleep, given that, Elon says he only sleeps 2 to 3 hours. Often football stars are after game celebrations, and his son says his son comes home saying sleep is for the weak.
Yeah, well, I must unfortunately say, Lars, that science doesn't prove your son's theory, and also it does not prove Elon's theory. So the need for sleep actually depends on many things: our emotional constitution, our physical health, even our physical type. Like, some more passionate people need a little bit more sleep, a little bit laid back people maybe need a little bit less rest, depending on, how intense life you live. So there is no like one size fits all solution. But as of today, the recommendation is to have at least 7 to 8 hours good sleep, because that's the time where you emotionally detox. That's the time when your brain processes all the impulses that you are going through. And that's the time when you can actually recharge yourselves. There are really cool technologies which you can use to measure. I mean, even a smartwatch, but some more kind of detailed technologies also, where you can measure whether you are recharging or actually you are still in the energy consuming mode while you sleep, because it's not obvious either. So, for example, I've done a lot of tests and experiments around this. When you drink any kind of alcohol at night, even a glass of wine, even though you might feel like you are in deep sleep, often your sleep, no matter what quality and where you are on the brainwave level, often your energy level is not increasing but decreasing because of the negative effect of the alcohol that you took before sleep. So there are a lot of parameters that influence it. But 3 hours sounds like not so much. And, I don't want to say anything nasty about Elon, but sometimes he's giving interviews where you can feel like maybe he needed some more sleep. I mean, he's a genius, so don't get me wrong.
No, absolutely. And the Oscar is asking if it's possible to share any links towards what you were speaking about with Google's, like, those resiliency videos. Obviously, those are internal videos at Google. I don't know if you can get hold of them, but perhaps if you could share a little bit more about how you learned about that and where and what they're doing there.
Yeah, so I can share the link about this trend signal. Maybe can we do that after the?
Dea, if you have it in front of you, you can just stick it in the comments.
Okay, stop share, please. Then I have to go back to that slide, and then I'll quickly share it with you because I have it in front of me. Just give me one moment.
Perfect.
Okay, I'm there in a sec. Hold on. It's in the chat, and wait. Now you can share if you like.
Perfect. Awesome, Dea. That's really great. Oh, that was the wrong button to be pressing. That was the right button to be pressing. Awesome. So I will stick that into the chat. Pedro, I'm not sure if you can answer this question, Dea, but Pedro is asking, can you share about the endocannabinoid system and how HR could leverage that for productivity and happiness?
That's a very good one. Actually, I don't have too much experience on that. I know some people who do, so I might be able to cross-refer you to some people. Actually, what my decision was on my kind of biohacking journey is to go more on the kind of long, slow path of meditation and breathing practices, and achieving altered states of consciousness in a very kind of natural way, not using any substances or anything. So what I find is that, sometimes when I talk to my friends about my experiences in meditation after decades, really, sometimes they are saying like, hey, is it possible that, someone is putting something in your drinks when you have this experience? So I believe that you can get there without any substances, but I mean, many people like to, as I said, accelerate the process, and that's also possible, but I don't have experience in that. I don't hear you now, Kevin. Something happens.
Yeah, that's because I was muted. Sorry. The wind's blowing here every now and then, and I'm trying to make sure it doesn't come through my speakers. So Oscar's just asking about if you have any opinion around the Headspace app. He's saying in Netflix. I've never seen it. So.
Oh yes, there is a little documentary about Headspace, and the app itself I think is great. Like, what's the biggest challenge about meditation is that it takes so much grit and perseverance to build those muscles, to do it every day and to sit. And what Headspace does is basically gives you bite-sized little exercises that will help you to create those habits. So 10 minutes every day, 10 minutes of some sort of mindfulness practice or meditation. And you slowly come into this loop of regular practice, and you learn a lot of different ways to do it, and you can find your own way which works best for you, and then maybe you get the appetite to expand. So I think these apps are great. They really are. And even Muse, where you have a headband that you put on your head and it will bring you faster into meditation. I think that's also great.
So there definitely are more and more technologies, right, that are going to be coming down the pipeline, that are going to allow us to understand those meditative states, right? And I think help us to get there faster than perhaps taking the 10, 20 years. But that is quite exciting to see. Eric has posted another question just asking, will you be discussing more about the athlete performance analogy or model?
I actually have a few more trends and a few more signals and a few scenarios that I have brought. Not so much about the athletes theme in general. Maybe we can just give a separate kind of occasion to that, because that's a huge one. And I've been working together here in Hungary with the psychologist of the Hungarian Olympic team, who is helping the best athletes really of Hungary who are winning gold medals regularly on the Olympic Games. And I have some sort of insight in what are the different technologies that they are using, but for today I was more kind of like looking further out instead of just looking at what is there already today, and just play around the different scenarios that can happen in the future.
Absolutely. But when it is really, I must say, I found the way you sort of explaining that our life is a bit like being high performance athletes, quite strange, because most of us don't really think that, right? We just think perhaps we're just we're just normal people going through life, and so looking at it that way, it really is quite interesting indeed.
Yeah, we are normal people going through life. You know, some of us are playing in front of tens of thousands of people in a football stadium and doing amazing stuff. Some of us are building startups or companies and doing amazing stuff. And some of us are being good parents and doing amazing stuff. So I think it's all, you know, in certain ways, we are all kind of working on bringing the best out of ourselves according to our values and skills. So yes, I think it's and we are sprinting. I mean, we all are sprinting. We are making extra efforts. That's life as we know it in the 21st century. So I think we'd better be mindful about that. That there are techniques that can help us to be in top shape when we need to, in lower shape when we don't need to be in top shape, and then rest and recover when we need to.
Absolutely. And Dea, as a last question here on this scenario of anti-burnout from myself, is would you agree with the fact that there's not really any silver bullets on how to do it? I mean, I know people who sort of divide the year up into like 3 or 4, and they always are taking like a 2-week break in between those sprints that they have, those like 3-month sprints, and then they're always taking a break. And then I know other people who are like big weekend, like no focus on like work type stuff. So there's many different methods that people are using. So just to get your thoughts about those methods, and perhaps some future methods that we've never thought about. I don't know.
Yeah. So I'll give you my kind of personal experience that I had so far. I don't think there is a silver bullet. Even for one individual, different strategies can work. So before COVID, for example, I'm a big fan of silence practice. So I used to go to India 2-3 times a year, up to the Himalayas, 2-3 weeks of silence. Just meditate, sit in a quiet place with some realized beings and just soak up the energy. That was my way of recovering. And since COVID, I couldn't go. And now, since COVID, I didn't take any holidays, basically. So I did travel a little bit when we could, and I do now, but I'm also working in the meantime. So what I did, I completely restructured my days. So I have a very kind of ritualistic morning, early wake up, yoga, meditation, go for a walk with my dog, have breakfast, really start my day with the good energy, then work. And then before finishing or after finishing work, just go out mountain biking. So I built in those things that I know that they really help me to recharge very quickly. For example, for me, one thing that can recharge me very, very quickly is sailing. There is a lake not so far from our home, and we go out sailing whenever we can finish work in time. And from 1 hour sailing, I get as re-energized as after a full weekend of rest. So this is how I restructured life. And even though I didn't get any break, I don't feel drained at all. So that was a good learning for me. I don't need to travel, how many hours and sit in the Himalayas to be able to recharge. Actually, I can do that while working and while being at home. I mean, of course, we all have different life situations. Like, it's very different for someone who has 3 kids learning from home, and then in the meantime, you're trying to work and all the rest of the stuff. But I think, yeah, different strategies can even work for different people. And let me show you some of the scenarios that I wrote after reviewing those signals that I have just spoken about. The first one is about, like, what is the future of workspace if some of those signals become mainstream, right? And my idea was, like, what if your workplace is a space, it can even be your home with your camera on, which reads and understands your daily energy level, your emotional state, how you woke up in the morning, maybe you had a bad dream, maybe you had a little argument with your husband or wife, and the system also understands your skills and your priorities at work, and creates your daily task list accordingly. Like, Dea is not in a top shape, so let's give her the urgent stuff, but not the really important stuff. And let's keep that for tomorrow. And, entertain her with some tasks that she really loves and that she is really enthusiastic about, and so on. So imagine that workplace, how cool that could be. And I mean, these technologies already support this scenario to happen. Or what if we have an AI-driven system that can tell us in advance, predict when we are, shifting towards either emotional or mental or physical exertion and alert us to stop and to rest, and even give suggestions on how we can recharge before something bad happens to us. And so we can always stay in balance and even stay in this challenge skills balance and live our lives based on these principles. The technology, again, is already there. I know there are a lot of details and little issues and regulations and data privacy and all these questions that are not clear yet. But think about it, like these can be potential future scenarios to manage the burnout story. And a lot of startups are actually getting millions of billions of dollars funding to build solutions for this. So shall we quickly jump into the second mega trend?
Yes.
Thanks so much for your interaction. I mean, it's so cool that you have so many comments and questions. I'm really enjoying it. So the second mega trend I thought we could mention is this whole kind of self-hacking society building up, like these DIY movements, biohackers, and like our whole kind of attention shifting towards evidence-based performance and recovery, because, you know, our brain is wired like this. Like someone tells you sleep is good for you is not as powerful as your smartwatch telling you you actually had 0 hours, you know, or 0 minutes deep sleep last night, which can also happen. That's pretty shocking. Then you start thinking about it. So the first signal I brought was a book that was published by the Biohacker Center. It's a hardcover book about, it's called the Biohacker's Handbook, which helps you to actually start playing around with your own kind of matrices, like what you eat, how you sleep, you know, what are the different inputs that you need to be able to function on a high performance level. The second signal is this product, which is precision nutrition from Root Line that is specifically designed for you. It's driven by AI, considering your individual DNA, blood, lifestyle, different test results to create the accurate nutrient formula for you. So basically, this is the vitamin for Kevin or the vitamin for Dea, which I think is really awesome. And then if you connect it to this whole kind of new science of exploring the gut microbiome and this whole universe, how the gut microbiome influences everything, who we are, how we feel, our emotions, our ability to think, to solve problems, and, you know, everything basically, then if you connect this one, and, you know, it's these labs to analyze your microbiome are available all over the world. So if you even add that data to this movement, then how exciting that can be to help, maybe not even with supplements, but with your food intake or even functional food that is designed for you to bring your body up to the optimal performance and long-lasting health. So the next one, the next signal I found is a bed from Bright, which is AI-powered. And it's a technology that helps you in having a good night's sleep. So it's analyzing, again, a lot of vitals, and it kind of creates the sleep experience that will help you to go as deep as you can in your sleep. So that tackles that part. I think that's also a very cool biohack. Now, I just mentioned very shortly the issue around data privacy and, you know, all the things that can come out of it. Like, what about those who are not interested in biohacking? What about those who don't want to share their data? And I also found this signal very exciting. The rise of neurotechnology calls for a parallel focus on neuro rights. So Chile is actually discussing to pass a bill on protecting people against abuses and inequities that could arise from technologies that augment human capacity. So, you know, how do you manage this whole mess of, you know, you wanting or not wanting to be part of it? Very interesting signal. Samsung and Bayer and a few other firms invested 90 million in the ADA health system, which is basically a health monitoring system that is giving you predictive analytics about your health status. That's a huge amount of money invested just recently in May. So I think that's also a very strong signal that we are moving towards these kind of AI-driven biohacking, kind of preventative space. And this one I also loved. Now we spoke a little bit about microbiome. This little tool can help you to analyze your metabolism. So what it can help you with, you blow that little whistle, at the end of the device. And from the CO2 level in your breath, it can tell you that after eating, what is your body burning? Are you burning the food? Are you burning fat? Are you actually creating energy for your body, or you are just using your energy that you had before? I think that's also very interesting from the performance perspective. So these are some signals that I found interesting in these kind of biohacking, self-hacking scenarios. So we had this little device that you blow, the bed that can help you and optimize itself to help your sleep, the personalized vitamins, and the microbiome researches. So what sort of future scenarios could those bring? And I'll pause here also for a minute and see if there are any comments or questions in the chat, Kevin.
Perfect. Thanks, Dea. So right now there aren't any comments yet. So if you have any comments or questions around this future scenario of self-hacking, do stick those in the comments on whatever platform you're on. Yeah, Dea. I mean, from my side, I think there's definitely a future ahead that's a lot more mainstream than the biohackers we have today, where you have a much better understanding of your biology, right? It's actually so crazy to think that you would never. Okay, some people might drive a car where they just cover up the whole dashboard. Sorry, the rain has really started to come down now.
That's all right.
Where they cover up the whole dashboard and say, "Oh, I don't care. I don't care what speed I'm going. I don't care what how much fuel I have in my car. I don't care if my engine's overheating. I'm just going to go." Those things are so important, right? We're constantly monitoring those in a car, in a business. We're constantly monitoring, certain metrics. But a lot of the time for us, when we're monitoring very little or nothing.
And you're so right, Kevin. Even if we are monitoring, then we don't have any understanding of what's the right intervention afterwards. So we are reading this and that, and we're doing stuff. And actually, sometimes we end up doing more trouble than if we didn't do anything. So I think that's also important, that it's not only about monitoring, but also about making the right decisions about your health and this whole kind of biohacking stuff. Like, are you really hacking yourself in a right way? I mean, that's a huge thing. So the scenarios that I came up with was that maybe in 10 years we will be able to be the top version of ourselves, as I said, with the help of personalized kind of my best version virtual assistant. Because if we are measuring those patterns that you are speaking about, then we can get data-driven solutions to optimize our performance and health that is good for us and based on science, and not just reading 2 articles that we found interesting that might be actually fake news. So I think that's a very huge one. Thanks for mentioning that. And I was also thinking about this designer food that is actually created based on your individual settings, your blood type, your DNA, your microbiome data, sleep and lifestyle choices, and adapting the food even on a daily basis according to what kind of day you are going to have, and just give you the right kind of nutrition and energy through this kind of personalized designer food or functional food that you are getting. I think that would also be interesting. I would definitely go for it.
Absolutely. Although, as Lars points out on LinkedIn, and once a decision has been made, taking action is often the hardest. So,
yes.
He says, "Yeah, hey Siri, please exercise me now, but be gentle."
Perfect.
We do also have a question here from I think it's Louis, who's just saying, what methodologies are there for self-hacking mental health?
Okay, that's a big one, and that's the one I would probably not start doing myself unless you want to experiment with something like the Headspace apps and these kind of gentle, or the Muse apps, these gentle kind of ways of or using little hacks like listening to flow trigger music when you are working, or listening to white noise that makes you more focused when you are working. So little ones is, if it's about efficiency, you can do yourself. But if it's about like a bigger thing and that you already want to alter some of your mental, emotional states, then I would definitely go for a solution where you also have someone who's a professional in the area and that can support you with that.
Yeah, absolutely, Dea. I mean, I know that there's some people out there doing crazy things to themselves, and I'm definitely not going to ever say that people should do that.
I mean, we can take it as an extreme sport, but I mean, I don't think it's for everyone.
Absolutely.
Okay, so shall we move to the next megatrend? I have
Let's
two,
move to the next one.
But these are going to be shorter, and the last one you know a lot about. So the next one is personalization and hyperconnectivity. So we also have like some crazy stuff here, and it all comes back to this topic that we already discussed, that we try to measure and we try to make interventions based on science, based on evidence, based on data, not only just our gut feeling and our cognitive biases about what was the most exciting article that we read. So there is one signal of change, which comes down to my kind of childhood passion of being able to read other people's minds. This was in the recent newsletter of Peter Diamandis' Future Loop, where he was sharing this article about this company that developed a helmet that can read people's minds. So the prototype is ready, and they are sending it out now to a bunch of people to test it. And the main kind of use case for them is to help people with diseases like Alzheimer's, for example, and see how they can kind of improve conditions there. But then again, how far you can go from here. Like I have a friend who is a neuroscientist working in Oxford University, and he's working on mind uploading technologies, which means, that without any intervention and without any invasive technology, you can download the contents of your mind and upload it into a computer. Maybe when your body dies, you can upload it back again into some machine or some kind of artificial body that can then suspend your life. So when I spoke to him about this, like how likely it is that it can happen in our lives, because it really sounds like major science fiction, he was very convinced that it's possible. So, and he is a scientist working on it. He's a very serious guy. So how far can we go from here, right? Now we are going really further than 10 years, hopefully. This is a cute one. Petting therapy dogs enhances thinking skills of stressed college students. That was a recent study in Washington State University. And what they found is that petting these dogs is not only decreasing anxiety, but also improves their cognitive skills. So I loved this signal. That cute little thing is my furry little thing that I pet regularly when I don't have colds. So that's a good one. And then there is this Vario reality cloud that seems to kind of start bringing us one step closer to start existing more in virtual reality environments. So they are basically developing a platform for virtual teleportation, but in a really high quality, and they make it really easy to scan a physical space and to create a high quality kind of virtual version of it. So that's like we are getting one step closer to this reality. Infineon is developing a software to analyze human movements and human patterns while traveling in self-driving cars. I think this is also very interesting. Like, if you have any issues while in the car, or when the car wants to start driving, but there are still people around it. So that's also a very interesting one to move towards, kind of blending our reality with machines and augmenting ourselves with superpowers. And this one was, again, a cute one. This is a gym in California that uses tools, sports equipment from Sports Art, the company that designed the sports equipment, to generate electricity when people are using it. So they are entirely running on energy that is created by these machines that people are using for sports. So we see all these trends of hyperconnectivity, personalization, and what kind of future can this mean to us, you know? And I also wanted to bring this idea of petting dogs, because I think we have the tendency of always think technology might solve all our problems, but actually a lot of solutions are already lying around. But anyways, I started playing around future scenarios, and I thought, you know, what if you were working in 10 years in workplaces where you literally have to take the extra mile to close an assignment or a task? Like, you have to go on the treadmill and walk 30 minutes and generate certain amount of power before you can close your assignment, you know? So this way, the employer can actually engage employees in taking care of their physical health. Or I was also thinking, I was inspired by this virtual teleport solution. So what if you use ultra haptics? Ultra haptics is a technology that enables you to be able to touch in the virtual reality environment. So what if ultra haptics and virtual teleport solution together allow you to kind of go in a special room in your workplace, any virtual room you can choose, and just hug cute animals in their virtual habitat, you know, like dolphins or elephants or giraffes, you know, and just to release anxiety. How cool that would be. And again, all the technologies are there, and now we are making some major leaps towards this reality. And I don't stop here now. We will have a few more minutes at the end, and I wanted to share with you the last megatrend, which I think we really need to speak about, and that is the decade of the EXOs, because I believe that there are really strong values in what we are doing in OpenEXO that can help in the sense of all of the members developing this ability of being on their best performance level and also recharging when they need to. And some signals of change that I brought. This is an app, the called Done app, which helps you to create new habits. So for example, when you're just too much into solving problems and working and taking care of the kids and all the trouble, you can create your own micro habits to just sit down and relax for 2 minutes, to just watch your breath for 2 minutes, to just go out and walk for 5 minutes every hour. So that these things that we always try to do, but it's very, very difficult. And they can gamify it also for you so that it's more fun. But what I really wanted to speak about here as a kind of signal is this ecosystem that is built in the OpenEXO platform. Why? Because at the beginning, we spoke about how high performance, resilience, well-being really depends, and even recharging really depends on, first of all, like, who are the people you are surrounded with? Do you have any professionals you can talk to? Do you find any solutions at hand when you need it? Or you feel left alone in this whole space? So I think that's huge in the community and in the ecosystem, and there are so many amazing opportunities and solutions lying around that is really fascinating. And the third thing is exponential learning. So I started my whole story about, you know, how this exponential world is really stretching us. We are linear human beings, and we have to face exponential challenges, and we have to learn in an exponential pace. So it really does matter if you can learn from other exponential learners or together with exponential learners, doing things together, sharing knowledge together, sharing insights together, or you have to dig out everything on your own. If you do it on your own, it's linear. If you do it together with people who are interested in the same challenges, then you can make the learning as well exponential. And I think that's something we definitely need. Otherwise, we will be stuck in the FOMO forever, you know, with the reading lists of, you know, billions of books. Thank you very much, Kevin. You are on mute again.
If I'm on mute like that, I need to go and pay some exos, tip some exos in the Discord channel. And so, I mean, thank you so much for sharing today. We thought maybe we would only be 35 minutes, but we've pretty much hit the end of the time. Thank you to everyone who joined, who asked questions, who shared. I see that there's a few more sharings in the channel. You know, people saying, Jimbo saying focus at will is great. Louis speaking about some things in Brazil, in the UK, and his projects. I also see a comment there from Carlos, just saying nice to hear from you guys. So big thank you to Dea, and you must have a fantastic weekend there. I hope you get some sailing in, maybe some mountain biking, and we'll chat to you again soon.
Thanks. Thank you very much, Kevin. Have a nice weekend, all of you.
Bye-bye.
And thanks for all the nice interactions. Take
Perfect.
care.
Awesome. Bye-bye.